Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the English podcast Conversation for Beginners. I'm Jason, your host for today's episode, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Julia. How's it going, Julia?
Hi, Jason. Hi, everyone. I'm doing great, and I'm so excited to be here. Today's topic is such a useful one, especially for those who might be struggling to find a language partner or don't have the chance to practice with others regularly.
Exactly. Today, we're going to dive into a really common question we get from beginner English learners. How can I practice speaking English if I don't have a partner? Many people think that to improve speaking skills, you absolutely need someone else to practice with, but that's not necessarily true, is it?
Not at all. While practicing with a partner can definitely help, there are so many ways to practice and improve your speaking skills on your own. And the best part? Many of these techniques are easy to do and can fit into your daily routine, no matter where you are. So, if you're a beginner or feeling shy about speaking in English with others, you're in the right place.
Absolutely. Today, we're going to cover a variety of solo practice techniques that you can use to improve your English speaking skills on your own. And by practicing these methods, you can actually build a solid foundation in English before you even start speaking with others. So, Julia, why do you think it's important to practice speaking English, even if you're doing it alone?
Great question, Jason. Practicing alone is not only a great way to build confidence, but also to develop a sense of how English sounds and flows. When you practice regularly, you train your brain to think in English and become comfortable forming sentences. This way, when you eventually speak with someone, you'll feel more prepared and natural.
That's so true. Plus, practicing alone lets you go at your own pace. You can take your time, focus on areas you want to improve, and repeat exercises as much as you need to. And for many beginners, it can be a lot less intimidating than trying to speak in front of someone else right away.
Exactly, Jason, and just think about it. By practicing on your own, you're creating an environment where you can learn and experiment with English without the pressure of someone listening or judging. You can try different expressions, play with your pronunciation, and make mistakes without feeling embarrassed.
That's such an important point, Julia. Making mistakes is part of learning, and when you're practicing by yourself, those mistakes are just steps toward improvement. So if you're listening and you're worried about making mistakes, don't be. Every mistake is a chance to learn something new.
Well said, Jason. So, today we'll go over several techniques that make practicing English alone not only effective, but also fun. Whether it's through shadowing, recording yourself, talking to yourself, or using resources like language apps, we've got a range of methods to help you become more confident and fluent over time.
And remember, these techniques don't require any special equipment. All you need is your voice, a bit of time, and a willingness to try. By the end of this episode, we hope you'll feel motivated and ready to give these solo speaking methods a try.
Yes, and if you're already excited about learning new ways to practice, stick around because we're about to dive into our first technique right after this. So, grab a notebook, get comfortable, and let's get started on this journey to practicing English speaking, solo style.
All right, let's dive into our first technique. One of my favorites, the shadowing technique. Julia, do you want to explain what shadowing is?
Absolutely, Jason. So, shadowing is a technique where you listen to a native English speaker, like in a podcast, video, or even a movie scene, and then try to repeat what they say right after them, almost like an echo. You're basically following along with their pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation as closely as possible.
Right, and it's really effective for improving how natural your English sounds. The goal isn't necessarily to understand every word right away, but to get a feel for how English is spoken. Julia, any tips for beginners who might find it a bit fast?
Great question. Yes, for beginners, it's helpful to start with short, simple sentences at a slower pace. You can even try slowing down the audio slightly. Many platforms like YouTube or podcast apps allow you to adjust the speed. Start at, say, 0.75x speed and work your way up as you get more comfortable.
Perfect. And shadowing also helps train your listening skills and pronunciation at the same time, which is a big advantage. It's almost like having a mini conversation, but instead of thinking of what to say, you're focusing on how to say it.
Exactly. And since you're repeating after a native speaker, you're learning the natural flow of English, which can help make your speaking sound less robotic. Another tip is to practice with content that matches your interests. If you enjoy cooking, try shadowing cooking shows or recipes. If you like travel, find a travel vlog to shadow.
That's a great idea, Julia. Practicing with something you enjoy keeps it interesting, and you're more likely to stick with it. And for anyone listening, remember that you don't have to be perfect. The point is to keep practicing and getting more comfortable with how English sounds.
Definitely. And as you practice, you'll notice improvements in your pronunciation and confidence. Plus, shadowing is something you can do anywhere, even if it's just a few minutes a day.
Absolutely. So, grab a video or podcast you enjoy and give shadowing a try. It's a simple but powerful way to level up your speaking skills. Let's move on to our next technique, recording yourself. This is a powerful method for building confidence and improving your speaking skills. Julia, could you explain why recording yourself can be so effective?
Of course, Jason, when you record yourself speaking in English, you get a chance to hear exactly how you sound. It's like getting a snapshot of your pronunciation, intonation, and fluency. By listening back, you can notice areas to improve, like certain sounds you struggle with or words that don't come out as smoothly as you'd like.
Exactly. And when you hear your own voice, you might notice things you don't catch while you're speaking, like if you're pausing too much or saying frequently. It's a great way to become more self-aware and track your progress over time.
Right, and to keep it interesting, you can record yourself talking about different topics. Start with simple things, like describing your daily routine or your favorite hobby. As you get more comfortable, try talking about a recent movie you watched or an article you read. This also helps expand your vocabulary.
That's a great tip. Also, you don't need fancy equipment. Just use your phone or a simple recording app. And don't worry about making mistakes. The point is to practice and learn from what you hear.
Exactly, Jason. And one thing I'd recommend is to try recording the same topic multiple times. You'll notice improvements in your pronunciation and fluency each time, and that's incredibly motivating. It's like seeing yourself progress step by step.
Definitely. So for everyone listening, give this a try. Start with just a minute or two of recording. And remember, the goal isn't to sound perfect. It's to get comfortable and learn from each recording.
Well said, Jason. So grab your phone, hit record, and watch your English speaking skills grow.
All right, let's talk about a fun and effective technique, talking to yourself. This might sound a bit unusual, but it's a fantastic way to practice English when you're on your own. Julia, want to explain how it works?
Sure, Jason. Talking to yourself in English is like having mini conversations with yourself throughout the day. You can talk about what you're doing, like, I'm making breakfast now, or describe what you see around you. It's a great way to think in English and build fluency without any pressure.
Exactly. And what's great is that you can do this anywhere. Whether you're at home, in the car, or taking a walk, it helps you get used to forming sentences quickly, which is essential for fluency.
Yes, and it's also a fantastic way to practice new vocabulary. Let's say you're learning words related to cooking. While you're making dinner, you can describe each step in English. Now I'm chopping onions, I'm adding salt, and so on. This makes learning more natural and memorable.
That's a great example, Julia. And for beginners who might feel shy, remember that no one else has to hear you. You're just building confidence and practicing forming sentences.
Exactly. And another tip is to narrate your thoughts. If you're planning your day, say it out loud in English. Today I need to finish my assignment and then go to the store. This way, you're constantly using English and training your mind to think in the language.
Great idea. Talking to yourself also helps reduce translation time because you're practicing thinking directly in English. The more you do it, the quicker and more natural it becomes.
Absolutely. So, start with small phrases and build up. It may feel strange at first, but it's one of the easiest ways to make English part of your daily life.
Now let's move on to a technique that uses technology. Practicing English with online resources. There are so many great options out there. Julia, what's your favorite way to use online tools for solo practice?
I love using language learning apps, Jason. Apps like Duolingo, Babbel, and HelloTalk are great because they offer interactive exercises and quizzes to help you build vocabulary and improve grammar. Some even have speaking exercises, so you get to practice pronunciation.
Absolutely. And besides apps, there are tons of free videos and podcasts available. You can listen to English content on YouTube or Spotify about topics that interest you, like travel, cooking, or personal development. It's a great way to hear native speakers and pick up new phrases.
Yes, and if you want to be more active in your learning, you can pause the video or podcast, repeat what you heard, or even take notes. That way, you're not just passively listening, you're practicing speaking and thinking in English too.
Great point, Julia. Another useful resource is language exchange sites like Italki or Tandem, where you can connect with native speakers. Even if you just use it for text practice, it helps build confidence in expressing yourself.
Right. And there are also English learning communities and forums like Reddit's R English Learning, where you can ask questions and engage with others. Practicing writing is valuable too, and these communities can help you feel supported.
So true, and remember, with online resources, it's important to use them actively. Try to speak along with videos, join discussions, or record yourself talking about what you've learned.
Exactly, Jason. Online resources make it easy to practice anytime, so take advantage of them.
Let's dive into our final technique for today, reading aloud. This is such a simple yet powerful way to practice speaking English on your own. Julia, do you want to explain how reading aloud can help?
Absolutely, Jason. When you read aloud, you're practicing pronunciation, fluency, and even your listening skills. It gives you a chance to focus on how each word sounds and to experiment with different tones. Plus, you get to hear yourself speaking English, which builds confidence.
Exactly. And the great thing about reading aloud is that it doesn't require anyone else. You can pick any material you like, maybe a short story, a news article, or even your favorite book in English. The key is to choose something that matches your level so you can read smoothly.
Yes, and if you're new to reading aloud, you can start with children's books or beginner level texts. They usually have simpler vocabulary and shorter sentences, which makes it easier to read confidently and focus on pronunciation.
Great tip. And another idea is to record yourself while reading. This lets you listen back and notice any areas for improvement, like certain sounds that need work or where you might be reading too quickly.
That's a great strategy, Jason. Also, reading aloud helps you get used to the natural flow of English sentences, which can improve your overall fluency. It's almost like practicing for a speech or presentation, but without the pressure.
Exactly, Julia. And for those who want to challenge themselves, try reading a dialogue from a play or a script. It's a fun way to practice different voices and emotions, which can help with conversational skills.
Absolutely. So, find something you enjoy reading, grab a quiet spot, and give it a try. You'll be amazed at how much this simple practice can improve your English.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode. We've covered a lot of effective solo techniques that can help you practice English speaking on your own. Just to recap, we talked about the shadowing technique, recording yourself, talking to yourself, using online resources, and of course, reading aloud.
That's right. Each of these techniques is designed to help you build confidence, improve pronunciation, and get comfortable thinking in English, even without a partner. The best part is that they're all flexible, so you can practice whenever and wherever works best for you.
Exactly, Julia. And remember, practice is key. The more you use these techniques, the easier speaking English will feel. Start small, be consistent, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. They're all part of the learning process.
Absolutely. So, here's our call to action for you. Choose one of these techniques and try it out today. Whether it's recording yourself, shadowing a video, or reading aloud, take that first step. And as you progress, mix in more techniques to keep things interesting.
And if you found this episode helpful, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more English learning tips. We have new episodes coming every week to support you on your journey to fluency.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Keep practicing, stay motivated, and remember, you're not alone in this journey. We're here to help you every step of the way.
Until next time, happy learning, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Easy English Podcast, your go-to source for mastering English without the stress, without the overwhelm. I'm your host and presenter's name, and today we're diving into a topic that I'm sure every English learner can relate to: how to learn English easily. Whether you're just starting your journey with the language or you've been learning for a while and feel stuck, this episode is for you. Today, I'll be sharing insights, tips, and a lot of practical advice that will make your learning process smoother, more effective, and, most importantly, more enjoyable. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to introduce myself properly for any of our new listeners. My name is Presenter's Name, and I've been teaching English for over a number of years. Throughout my career, I've helped countless students from around the world, just like you, reach their English language goals. And I know from experience that learning a new language doesn't have to be a painful, tedious task. In fact, with the right approach, it can be quite fun, almost like a game. And I know you're probably wondering, a game? Learning English is a game? Yes, I'll explain exactly what I mean in today's episode. But first, let me give a little background on this podcast. The Easy English Podcast is here to give you practical tips, strategies, and motivational stories that keep you inspired on your English learning journey. Each episode, we break down a topic related to language learning and go deep, not just talking about the what, but also the how and the why. You'll walk away from each episode with actionable tips that you can start using right away. And trust me, consistency is the key when learning a language, and every small step you take brings you closer to fluency. So let me take you back to a time in my life when I had to learn a foreign language myself. I was in my early 20s, and I decided to move to country name, a country where the language was completely unfamiliar to me. Now, I had taken a few classes in that language back in school, but like many of you probably feel, it just didn't stick. I remember sitting in my tiny apartment in city name, completely lost. The grocery store, the street signs, the public transportation system, everything was in this foreign language that I didn't understand. I felt overwhelmed, just like many English learners do when they're first starting out. But slowly, day by day, I started to pick things up. And no, it wasn't through endless hours of textbook learning. Instead, I started focusing on practical situations. I learned words that I needed to survive, to order food, to navigate the city, and gradually I realized something important. Learning a language doesn't have to be overwhelming if you focus on what's relevant to you at the moment. That was my first breakthrough, and that's the first lesson I want to share with you today. You see, one of the biggest mistakes language learners make is trying to learn everything at once. They want to know all the grammar rules, memorize lists of vocabulary, and be able to speak fluently from day one. But that's not how our brains work. The key to learning English, or any language, is focusing on what's relevant to you at each stage of your learning journey. For example, let's say you're learning English because you want to travel. You don't need to know complex business terms or scientific vocabulary right away. What you need are phrases and words that will help you navigate an airport, check into a hotel, or order a meal at a restaurant. And once you've mastered that, you can start building on it. Here's a concrete example. When I was learning language name, I didn't start by learning all the verb tenses or memorizing hundreds of words. No, I started by learning how to introduce myself. It's one of the most basic yet practical things you can learn in any language. And that's what I encourage you to do in English. Start with the basics, things you'll actually use in everyday situations. Learn how to introduce yourself, how to ask for directions, how to make small talk. These are things you'll encounter almost daily, and once you're comfortable with them, you'll have built a solid foundation that you can expand on. So let's dive a bit deeper into what I mean. Imagine you're meeting someone for the first time in English. You want to make a good first impression, but you're not sure how to introduce yourself properly. Well, here's a simple, effective structure you can follow. First, start with a greeting. Something as simple as, "Hi, my name is your name." This is basic, but it's the foundation of every self-introduction. Next, give a little information about yourself. You could say something like, "I'm from your country," or "I live in your city." This is a chance to share something personal and relatable. Then add a detail about what you do. For example, "I'm a student," or "I work in your job field." Keep it simple and straightforward. Finally, you can end with a question to keep the conversation going. Something like, "What about you?" or "Where are you from?" And there you have it, a simple yet effective way to introduce yourself in English. Now you might be thinking, "Okay, I get the basics, but what about the hard stuff?" Well, the hard stuff comes with time. The more you practice these basic interactions, the more comfortable you'll become. And before you know it, you'll be able to have longer, more complex conversations. Now, here's something I really want you to understand. Consistency is everything when it comes to learning English. It's not about how much time you spend in one sitting. It's about showing up every day, even if it's just for 10 or 15 minutes. Research shows that people who practice consistently, even for short periods, learn faster than those who study for hours at a time, but only occasionally. In fact, according to a study published by Research Institution, learners who practice for just 15 minutes a day retain information up to 30% better than those who cram for longer sessions. So let's say you're learning 5 new words a day. That's it, just 5 words. In a month, that's 150 new words. And in a year, that's 1,825 new words in your vocabulary. Imagine how much more confident you'll feel knowing that you've built your English vocabulary step by step, day by day. Here's an example. I once had a student named Student's Name. She was determined to learn English, but she struggled with consistency. She would study for hours one week and then not study at all the next. I encouraged her to adopt a daily routine, even if it was just 10 minutes. Within a few months, her progress skyrocketed. By the end of the year, she had learned over 1,000 new words and was able to hold a conversation in English with ease. Her success wasn't because she studied for hours, but because she showed up every day, no matter how busy her schedule was. So, what's the takeaway from today's episode? First, focus on what's relevant to you. Start with the basics and build your foundation. Second, be consistent. Even if it's just 10 minutes a day, commit to showing up every day. And finally, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every mistake is a step toward improvement. Remember, learning English, or any language, is a journey, not a destination. It takes time, but with the right approach, it can be an enjoyable and rewarding process. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Easy English Podcast. I hope you found today's episode helpful, and I encourage you to take these tips and put them into practice. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review or sharing it with a friend who might find it helpful. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep learning, stay consistent, and remember, you've got this. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Easy English Talk channel, where we dive into everything related to learning and mastering the English language. My name is Jason, your host, and I'm so excited to be here today with a very important topic. It's something that almost every English learner faces at some point in their journey. I understand English, but I can't speak. Now, if you're listening to this, I'm sure you've experienced that frustrating moment where you can understand someone perfectly in English. You follow along in conversations, you grasp what's being said in movies, or even understand complex instructions at work. But when it's your turn to speak, suddenly your mind goes blank. The words get stuck in your throat, or worse, you second guess every sentence you try to form. Sound familiar? If so, you're definitely not alone. Today I'm going to take you through why this happens, and more importantly, how to overcome it. This podcast is going to be loaded with practical advice, real-world examples, and concrete tips that will help you unlock your speaking potential. So, whether you're listening on your morning commute, cooking dinner, or just relaxing at home, stay tuned. Let's start by breaking down why so many learners of English can understand it, but have trouble speaking. This is something that happens across all languages, not just English. Think about this. Have you ever heard someone say, I understand Spanish, but I can't speak it? Or, I get what they're saying in French, but I don't feel confident enough to respond? This is a global challenge. Why does it happen? First, there's a key distinction between passive and active language skills. Passive skills involve receiving information, like listening and reading, while active skills involve producing information, like speaking and writing. Listening is easier because it's a one-way street. You're just absorbing information and your brain is processing it, but there's no immediate pressure to respond. On the other hand, speaking requires several things to happen all at once. You need to find the right words, put them in the correct order, and pronounce them clearly, all while under the pressure of the moment. And if English isn't your first language, your brain is doing all this in real time while trying to translate from your native language to English. No wonder it feels hard. Let's say you're in a situation where someone asks you a simple question, like, how was your weekend? Now you understand this question perfectly. You know they're asking about what you did during the past 2 days, but suddenly, when it's your turn to respond, you freeze. You know the words are there somewhere. You might even know how to respond. My weekend was great. I went to the park, had lunch with a friend, and watched a movie. Simple, right? But here's the thing. Your brain starts analyzing every word. Is went to the park the right way to say it? Should I use a more complex sentence? How do I pronounce that word? All of this overthinking slows you down. But think about this. Have you ever spoken your native language and paused to analyze every word that came out of your mouth? Of course not. That's because speaking your native language is automatic. It's reflexive. And that's where we want to get with English. We want speaking to feel natural, easy, and automatic. So how do we do that? Many English learners think the reason they can't speak is because they don't know enough words. While vocabulary is important, confidence is just as crucial, if not more so. Even if you know a lot of words, if you're not confident enough to use them, they'll just stay locked in your brain. Here's a real-life example. There was a study conducted by a language learning institute, and it found that students who were more confident in speaking, whether or not their grammar was perfect, had far more successful conversations than those who had perfect grammar, but hesitated constantly. The confident speakers were able to convey their message more effectively, even if they made small mistakes. In fact, 78% of participants said they preferred speaking with someone who was confident but made mistakes over someone who spoke perfectly but hesitated a lot. One way to boost your confidence is to practice speaking without the pressure of a real conversation. This might sound strange, but one of the best ways to do this is to talk to yourself. Yes, I said it. Talk to yourself in English. Start small. Describe what you're doing. For example, if you're cooking dinner, narrate the process in English. I'm chopping onions. I'm boiling water for pasta. This gets you used to forming sentences in real time. Another fantastic method is to shadow native speakers. Find a YouTube video or a podcast where someone is speaking in English. Pause the video every few seconds and repeat exactly what they said. Mimic their pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation. This is called the shadowing technique, and it's been proven to help language learners become more fluent and confident speakers. Building your speaking skills doesn't happen overnight. It's like learning to play an instrument or working out at the gym. It takes consistent practice over time. But the key here is consistent practice. If you only practice speaking once a month, progress will be slow. However, if you dedicate just 10 to 15 minutes every day to speaking out loud, whether you're practicing by yourself, with a language partner, or through a language exchange app, you will start to see results. Here's another important statistic. In a study conducted by Cambridge University, language learners who spoke for just 10 minutes a day over a 3-month period improved their speaking skills by an average of 45%. Think about that for a second. Just 10 minutes of speaking practice a day can lead to almost 50% improvement in your fluency over 3 months. That's powerful. Now let's talk about some common mistakes that learners make when trying to speak. One of the biggest mistakes is focusing too much on grammar. Yes, grammar is important, but when it comes to conversation, communication is more important. If you're so focused on using perfect grammar, you'll hesitate and lose your flow. Instead, aim for fluency over accuracy. It's okay to make mistakes. Native speakers make them all the time. Another mistake is avoiding speaking because you're afraid of making mistakes. This is one of the worst things you can do because the only way to improve your speaking is by actually speaking. Think about it like riding a bike. You're going to fall a few times, but if you don't get back on the bike, you'll never learn how to ride. Speaking works the same way. Let me tell you a story about a learner I once worked with named Ahmed. Ahmed was from Egypt, and he had been studying English for over 5 years. He could understand English perfectly. He'd watch movies without subtitles. He could read English novels, and he did well in his English exams. But when it came to speaking, he'd freeze up. He'd get so nervous that even simple sentences like, "I'm going to the store," would come out as, store, I go. After working with Ahmed for a few months, we realized the problem wasn't his English knowledge. He knew the language. The problem was his confidence. So we focused on speaking practice, but without any pressure. I had him start small, just talking about his day for 5 minutes each morning. Then we moved on to more structured conversations. Within a few months, Ahmed's speaking improved dramatically. The words flowed more naturally, and he stopped second-guessing himself. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Easy English Talk channel. I hope you found today's episode helpful, and I encourage you to take these tips and put them into practice. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review or sharing it with a friend who might find it helpful. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Easy English Talk. I'm host Jason, and I'm here with my co-host Sarah. Today, we're excited to talk about something every English learner wonders about: the best ways to learn English.
Hey everyone! Thanks for joining us. Learning English might feel challenging at times, but with the right strategies, anyone can make progress and feel more confident. So, if you're just starting out or you've been learning for a while and want to improve, this episode is for you.
Exactly. Now, Sarah, a lot of beginners feel overwhelmed when they start learning English. There's so much to learn: vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and on top of that, they often don't know where to begin. But don't worry, we're here to help you find a clear path forward.
Yes. And remember, learning a new language doesn't have to be perfect or super fast. It's all about taking one step at a time and finding methods that work best for you. Today, we're going to talk about different ways to build a strong foundation, use immersion techniques, stay consistent, and find the best resources. Whether you're a beginner or just looking for new ideas, these tips can help.
We'll also be sharing some simple, practical ways to learn English in your everyday life, even if you're busy. So if you've ever wondered how to practice English effectively, stay tuned because we have a lot of helpful advice coming up.
Yes, we do. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes. Now, Let's get into our first tip for learning English: building a strong foundation.
All right, let's dive into our first section, building a foundation. For any language, especially English, having a solid foundation is essential. It's like building a house. You want to make sure the base is strong, or else everything you add on top might not hold up as well. So, Sarah, what do you think are some good first steps for beginners?
Great question, Jason. When starting out, the basics are the most important. If you're new to English, start with learning simple, everyday words and phrases that you can use right away. These don't have to be complicated. For example, common greetings like hello, how are you, or thank you are great places to start. Once you're comfortable with those, you can gradually build on your vocabulary.
Yes, and learning new words doesn't have to be overwhelming. Try learning just a few words each day. For example, pick 5 words that are useful for your daily life and practice them. Even if it seems like a small step, these small, consistent efforts add up. You'll find that over time, you know a lot more than you thought you would.
Absolutely. Another key point is grammar. But here's the thing: don't feel pressured to know every grammar rule right away. Many beginners feel that they need to memorize all the rules before they can speak. But it's actually more effective to focus on the basics, like simple present, past, and future tenses, and use them in everyday sentences. Grammar is important, but you'll pick up more naturally as you keep practicing.
Exactly. You don't need to be perfect, and it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, making mistakes is part of learning. The more you practice, the better you'll get. And one of the best ways to practice is by using what you've learned in real situations. For example, if you're learning greetings, try using them when you meet people, or even practice with a friend.
Yes, practicing with someone else can really make a difference. Find a friend, family member, or even an online language partner who can help you practice speaking. And remember, it doesn't have to be a native speaker. Just practicing with someone who understands a bit of English can help you build confidence and improve.
Good point, Sarah. Also, using tools like flashcards can be helpful. There are many apps out there where you can create flashcards for new words. You can also write down phrases that you find useful and review them each day. Repetition helps you remember and really make those words and phrases part of your foundation.
That's right, Jason. And one more tip for beginners: don't forget listening practice. Listening to English in small, manageable pieces is a great way to reinforce what you've learned. Start with something simple, like a basic English podcast or a children's story. These resources use simpler language and slower speech, so it's easier for beginners to understand and follow along.
Absolutely. Listening helps you get used to the sounds and rhythm of English. You'll also start to recognize words and phrases you've learned, which can boost your confidence. So to sum up this section, when you're building a foundation in English, start with basic words, phrases, and grammar. Practice with a friend or partner, use flashcards, and try to listen to simple English content every day.
And remember, it's a journey, so take it step by step. Don't rush, and don't feel frustrated if you don't see progress right away. With regular practice, you'll start building that foundation, and soon enough, you'll feel ready to move on to more advanced learning techniques.
Now that we've talked about building a foundation, let's move on to immersive learning techniques. Sarah, immersion is one of the most effective ways to learn a language, right?
Absolutely, Jason. Immersion means surrounding yourself with the language as much as possible. Even if you're not in an English-speaking country, you can still create an immersive experience. For example, try listening to English podcasts, watching English movies or TV shows with subtitles, or even listening to English music. This helps you hear how words are used naturally.
That's a great tip. Watching shows with subtitles, especially ones made for beginners, can help you connect the sounds with the words. It's also a great way to pick up pronunciation and common expressions. And don't worry about understanding every word. Just try to get the general meaning.
Exactly. Another technique is to speak English regularly, even if you only know a little. Find a language partner, join online groups, or practice by talking to yourself. Saying words and sentences out loud can boost your confidence and help you remember better.
Yes, and if you have a friend who speaks English, practice with them. The more you use English in real situations, the more natural it will feel. Immersion helps you start thinking in English instead of translating everything in your head.
So, remember, try to immerse yourself daily. Even small steps, like changing your phone's language to English, can make a difference. These immersive practices help make English part of your everyday life.
All right, let's move on to something that can really keep you motivated. Setting goals and staying consistent. Sarah, why do you think goal setting is so important for English learners?
Well, Jason, having clear, achievable goals gives learners something specific to work toward. It helps them track progress and stay focused. For beginners, it's best to start small. Instead of aiming to be fluent right away, set goals like learn 5 new words a day or practice speaking for 10 minutes daily.
Exactly. When you start with smaller, manageable goals, you're less likely to feel overwhelmed and you'll see steady progress. Consistency is key here. Even a few minutes every day can add up over time, and it's better than studying for hours once a week.
Yes, and consistency builds good habits. Try creating a routine. Maybe you listen to a podcast in the morning or review vocabulary before bed. When you make learning part of your daily life, it feels less like a chore and more like a natural habit.
Another tip is to track your progress. Write down what you've learned each week or celebrate small wins. This keeps you motivated and reminds you how far you've come.
Absolutely! Setting goals, staying consistent, and tracking your progress are powerful ways to improve over time. Remember, it's not a race. Small steps lead to big improvements.
Now let's talk about using technology and resources to learn English. There are so many tools available these days that can really help beginners. Sarah, do you have any favorites?
Definitely, Jason. Language apps like Duolingo, Memrise, or Babel are great for beginners because they make learning fun and interactive. These apps offer short exercises in vocabulary, grammar, and listening, so you can learn anytime, anywhere.
Absolutely. And YouTube is another fantastic resource. There are countless channels dedicated to English learning with videos on pronunciation, everyday conversations, and even live practice sessions. You can watch these at your own pace and choose topics that interest you.
That's right. YouTube is perfect for visual learners, and podcasts are great for listening practice. There are many beginner friendly podcasts that focus on simple conversations and basic vocabulary, which is ideal for getting used to the sounds and rhythm of English.
And let's not forget online dictionaries and translators. Tools like Google Translate or Cambridge Dictionary offer audio pronunciation, example sentences, and even translation help. These are excellent for quickly checking a word's meaning or pronunciation.
Exactly! Using these tools daily makes learning more accessible. Just remember to choose resources that match your level so you don't feel overwhelmed. Technology gives you endless options. Use what works best for you.
All right, we're at the end of our podcast. We've covered some of the best ways to learn English, from building a strong foundation and using immersion techniques to setting achievable goals and using technology. Sarah, what's one final piece of advice you'd give to our listeners?
I'd say, remember that learning a language is a journey. It's normal to feel challenged or even frustrated sometimes, but every bit of practice you put in helps. Take it one day at a time and don't rush yourself. Progress might feel slow, but consistency is key. Small steps every day lead to big improvements.
Absolutely, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes are a natural part of learning and a sign that you're trying. Whether you're practicing with a friend, using apps, or watching videos, every experience counts. Just keep going, and soon you'll see how much you've grown.
Yes. And remember, you're not alone in this. There's a whole community of learners out there. Share your experiences, ask questions, and even join language groups if you can. Having others to support and motivate you can make a big difference.
So, keep practicing, stay consistent, and be patient with yourself. You've already taken a big step by choosing to learn English, and we're here to help you every step of the way.
Thanks for listening. We hope these tips help you feel more confident in your learning journey. And don't forget to subscribe for more English learning content. See you in the next episode.